Hello everybody, welcome to another chapter of the hunt for Bigfoot. On this particular day I went to a different location than I normally do, just to see what I could find that was new. And however, to get to that location I still had to travel down an abandoned railroad bed that I had been on before. So at least this first frames of the video that you're going to see might be familiar, but while I was looking for the particular section that takes me down the trail to where I normally go, I happened to catch out of the corner of my eye a movement, and you know, my hopes got up a little bit, and I thought maybe I'd seen a possible Bigfoot sighting, which you're going to see here. Here you're walking through the woods, and then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, there is a figure further down the railroad bed that disappears into the woods. And of course he wasn't there. Of course blowing it up just obscures it, obfuscates the image. But instead of following my original path, which was just about where I am now, I went down a little bit further and went down over the hill to a more heavily traveled path by many people. What I happen to find here kind of supports my opinion, and further examination of the video after I got back home and put it on the computer shows that my hopes were dashed. It wasn't actually a Bigfoot that I saw, it was just a human being. But as we get down into the depths of the valley here, down towards the peak, I found some footprints. They were roughly the same size as mine, so that pretty much supports the idea that that wasn't a huge hairy creature. It was just another man that I saw. And like I said, when I got back to my home studio and put the recording on my program and analyzed it in depth, it actually turned out to be a guy in a dark coat and blue jeans. So no sightings today. Possible sightings, but the possible turned out to be impossible. But you see the footprints here. There's also some deer prints going in through here. You can see, so this is a pretty heavily traveled trail, both by human beings and animals. So I hadn't been here for well over a year to this point, and when I was here, it was actually in the springtime. So this was all pretty much grown over. I didn't have any video that I had saved of this at the time. But I decided to travel along it. I went a little bit further than I normally do here. And did happen to come across this old 5-gallon metal bucket that had been used for target practice that was hanging in the tree. Obviously been there quite some time, that you'll see coming up on the right. But as we get into our Bigfoot research, I want to quote from a scientist named Claude Bernard. And way back in 1865, he wrote a book called Introduction to the Study of Experimental Medicine. And again, that was well over 100 years ago when he wrote that. But I'm going to quote him here. And again, this is a scientist by the name of Claude Bernard. He wrote, "Men who have excessive faith in their theories or ideas are not only ill-prepared for making discoveries, they also make very poor observations because they observe with a preconceived idea. And when they devise an experiment, they can see in its results only a confirmation of their theory. It happens further naturally that men who believe too firmly in their theories do not believe enough in the theories of others. So the dominant idea of these men is to find others' theories faulty and to try and contradict them." And here we have, in the field of what we call Bigfoot research, one of the main problems that I'm hoping to overcome here is many of us believe what we want to believe, and there's no way that anybody else can sway our belief into something else. We see a Bigfoot because we want to see a Bigfoot. There may not actually be any verifiable physical evidence that there is a Bigfoot there, but still, we believe he's there, and no matter what you say, I'm going to believe it. And this is where we have the problem, because in many of the videos that I've seen and in many of the articles that I've read, there simply isn't enough physical, empirical evidence, we call it, to substantiate the existence of something. Do I believe that there is something there? Yes, I do. My own experiences. And there's that metal bucket I was telling you about. It's been there for quite some time. Again, this area that I've been in has actually been abandoned since the railroad bed, at least since the 50s. So a lot of what's been here hasn't really been touched too much by human intrusion over the last 30 or 40 years. But anyhow, to get back to my point, as we go through the woods looking for evidence, we need to be more open to what we see, and more in tune to the fact that what we see may not have been caused by a Bigfoot. There are always other means of actions creating the evidence that we see. So we have to look very carefully and not jump onto the idea that yes, this was done by a Bigfoot, or yes, that was done by a Bigfoot, had to be done by a Bigfoot. There is no other alternative. There's always an alternative. Always. There's always another possibility or possible reason that what we see has been accomplished. So again, one of the things that I'm doing here in these videos is trying to inject a sense of reason into this research, and do it in a more, shall we say, professional manner than what you're doing. When I go through the woods, I'm not simply taking a walk and snapping a few pictures of piles of brushes and calling it a Bigfoot hut. I'm actually in examining things in depth, and a lot of the stuff that I find are not going to be on these videos for obvious reasons. But like I said, I'm traveling across this. It's actually kind of a shortcut to where I normally go when I'm in this area. In this particular trail, I haven't been on since spring of the last year, so there are a few things here that I found that were actually quite interesting. For instance, this witness post here, in all the time I've been out in the woods for the last 40 years, this is actually the first witness post I've actually come across. I knew they existed, and I'd read about them and seen pictures and whatever, but that's actually the first one I've come across. So that'd be a lesson that there are things out there that we know they exist, but just because we've never seen them, it doesn't mean they're not there. How many times have we been out in the woods and not seen something, even though they're there? This little post pretty much proves that, or provides anecdotal evidence towards that fact. But I came across, right now I'm traveling down an old access road, and I came across some brush that you'll see coming up that looks like it had been put there pretty much on purpose. Many of the logs or tree branches that were on that were actually much too big for a single human being to handle, to be put into that mess. But that'll be coming up here. You'll see it in just a couple of minutes. But my theory on Bigfoot stick structures is that these structures are not built for shelter. There's been a lot of people that have shown similar to this, wilderness huts or structures that have been far too dense, far too thickly constructed, and were clearly made as a means of shelter from the elements. However, my theory is that those are actually man-made, possibly made by wanderers. There are still hobos and people that just don't want to live in part of society that travel through the woodlands of this nation and Canada, and they live in these structures temporarily as they travel around. I've actually come across one or two of them in the past years, and they have some pretty interesting stories. However, to get back to Bigfoot structures, my theory is that these structures exist not as a Bigfoot shelter from the elements, but as a means of camouflage as they possibly lay in wait for potential game. I've seen a couple or three of these weird looking piles of sticks, and they've always been adjacent to game trails, and this is it here that you're looking at now. You see that it was made in part over a downed tree that had been either just diseased and fell over from the wind or struck by lightning. I'm not really sure which, but you can see the outline of it here. And there are other branches and stuff that were piled up against it of different trees, and they don't clearly come from nearby where they would have just simply fallen over onto this. But you can see where something may have used it as a means of camouflaging or hiding itself from game that was traveling by the trail, which I'm heading towards now. And looking at it, you can see underneath the tree there, there's a trail that runs from right to left or left to right, whichever way you want to follow it. But it runs in a line diagonally to that structure that you're looking at now. You can see where if something was in there, the surrounding branches would have hidden it from clear view of that game trail, which is in the distance. And I'm going over to that now. And I'm following the game trail now just to see where it goes. It heads towards a body of water. So you have all the elements of a substantial woodland environment here. You have plenty of brush and greens and other things to eat. And while I was traveling through here, I saw very little sign of larger animals, just mostly smaller ones, such as rabbit, raccoon, a lot of fowl. I did hear a few owl hoots while I was in here. I didn't happen to see any owls, so they were too far away to be able to clearly see. But here's a little pond. You can see here and also earlier where that little puddle was in the roadway. But the water's starting to freeze over. It's getting pretty cold up here in Maine already. This was taken in November, Sunday before Thanksgiving, actually. But it's pretty quiet. There's not much for bird life left. They've all flown south for the winter, so You have your normal nuthatch and woodpeckers and owls that stick around, but everybody has their brains and headed south for the winter already. But traveling along the game trail, and unfortunately the things that I'm seeing don't show up clearly here in this sort of video. So I think next year, once time gets around and things start growing up again, I'm going to maybe do a couple of videos of on tracking and how do you determine where game trails go and what constitutes a game trail worth following. But we'll get into that much further down the road. It's too late in the year to be able to go out and show these things clearly. Of course, in the wintertime it's easy to track them because of the snow. But coming up here, I want to show you something that I find pretty interesting. As we go through the woods, in many places where we think that we have a Bigfoot population, I've seen in some of the videos that I haven't actually seen anybody comment on yet, but you'll see trees with the bark peeled off. A lot of hunters, sportsmen, just automatically presume that the bark was taken off by as a scrape by some animal. But I'm going to show you here coming up something that makes me think otherwise. You see this bark here was all laid out pretty neatly, actually. And close examination of it shows that it was riddled with insects. But it was placed here pretty neatly, and it came from that tree. You could tell because the bark is the same as what's further up, and that part right there stretches from a couple of feet above the ground up to about a maybe 8 or 9 foot height. I don't believe a deer would have scraped that off and piled that bark up neatly. So again, it's just one of those questionable pieces of evidence that we see as we're going through our hunts or hikes or whatever you want to call them through the woods. And we miss a lot of these things simply because we are so intent upon convincing ourselves that there's a Bigfoot afoot nearby in the woods spying on us, that we miss a lot of the true evidence and the aspects of wildlife and living through the woods. Yeah, I apologize for this here, going through the following the game trail. I like to just about crawl on my hands and knees to get through this thicket where the game trail is. Let's revisit some of the evidence that we found today. Number one, I found this piece of scat or excrement, and well, it's not a Bigfoot dropping. These are some of the things that we need to be looking for when we're out searching for hints and clues. And we need to determine, first of all, what this creature eats for a diet. I'm guessing insects, small animals, possibly even big animals, with a large amount of meat in diet to take the carbohydrates in their diet for to support their size. But also this bark that I found was clearly from this tree here and laid aside in a nice neat little pile. Again, the tree was riddled with insects, and I'm guessing that the bark was taken off specifically for the purpose of getting at the insects underneath. Something like that was not done by a wild animal or a bird. It had to have been done by a cognizant being that has the ability to think through things. And we also have to look for these things that many people call stick structures. They look like random piles of logs and sticks and brush scattered here and there. But I found that the ones of these that I have found that look like they're big enough to conceal something the size of a Bigfoot are actually almost always located in the vicinity of a game trail, where if you were to crawl in there, you could actually sit and be relatively unobserved by game that might be passing along a trail. And again, in the case of this particular one I came across today, or the day that I took this video, there was a game trail that traversed about roughly 150 to 175 feet from where this structure was, and going from generally east-west pattern, or west-east pattern. I'm guessing probably it was more likely east to west, because that was the direction of the pond where the water would be. So those are the things that we can look for as we're hunting. Tangible, empirical evidence is the only thing that's going to allow us to create a picture of this being, whatever it is, and prove they really exist. Up to this point, most of the stuff we've seen, especially here on YouTube and other places, the video has been rather weak, to say that, to be polite about it. There are far too many hoaxes out there, far too many people that are just taking pictures of the shadows and calling them Bigfoot, when the reality is that there's usually a natural reason for these to occur. Not everything that you see is going to be a Bigfoot. There are people that have seen them, and you know, not everybody is a hoaxer, not everybody is lying, and not everybody is out there trying to seek attention. And those incidences are going to be the ones that are going to hold the most sway in convincing people that a Bigfoot actually exists. Get into here is the need to collect what we call empirical evidence, and this consists of physical things that can be observed, like scat samples, hair samples, footprints, and of course the ultimate, of course, is going to be to actually capture one. But then we're going to get into some other problems there at some point down the road, and we'll have a whole new other can of worms to be opened. But again, you need to improve your tracking ability. You need to learn how to track animals. If you learn to track the animals and you follow the ways of the woods, you'll have a much easier time of finding the evidence that you're looking for. And always remember, there is always an alternative explanation for whatever is going on in the woods. Always. There are no exceptions to that. So you have to rule these things out. And one of the things I've discovered is that, as I quoted the scientist earlier, is that here in the Bigfoot community, too many people have the idea that they believe what they believe. It doesn't matter whether it's the truth or not. They're going to believe it. And heaven help the person that disagrees with them. And this is not true science. This is not true research. When you're doing true research, especially in the scientific world, you have to have empirical evidence. You have to have something that can be observed repeatedly and achieve the same results for your experiments or research considered a success. And one of the things here is that for far too long, the Bigfoot phenomena has been categorized in with the paranormal world, and I think what we have to do is figure out a way of to stop referring to this as a paranormal subject. it's not outside of the normal world, such as usual paranormal items such as ghosts and witches and goblins and all that. That's another whole situation that I'd really rather not get into of I could say paranormal phenomenon, because the reality is not. It's either real or it's not. My feeling at this point is, with all the evidence, is that there's something there, but we don't know what it is. We can't say for sure what this creature is, whether it's an animal or a human being. My leanings is towards it being a human being, based on my research from historical and anecdotal tales via the means of folklore and personal histories throughout the ages. And I think eventually, at some point in time, we are going to come to a successful conclusion for this mystery, and we will find out what this is. We will have one in a box, as they say. But that's it for today. That's my November hunt. I'm not sure as I'm going to be able to do another one until springtime, mostly because I don't have a four-wheel drive vehicle, and the places where I go to really can't park a vehicle on the side of the road. You have to pull off, and the car that I have can't do that. So I will be doing some other videos through the winter, but I think this is going to be my last long length video sharing some of my evidence and stuff. I may do some short ones and share just some evidence and stuff like that, or maybe some thoughts, but that's it for this one, and I'll see you next time on Hunt for Bigfoot. Enjoy your day.